Well, good evening and welcome to the first Restore GBNI Live. What is Restore? Well, Restore is a platform where what we hope to do is that we hope to reach out to people right around the United Kingdom and to bring people together in order to fight for our survival in a meaningful and a proactive way. I mean, I often say that there's safety in numbers. I mean, we're stronger together, and there's people right around the United Kingdom, just like us, that really needs to have people that will come and stand with them in their hour of need. So over the last few years, from the Brexit process going forward, from the 23rd of June in 2016, we've got our eyes open, and we've got our eyes open to politics and really high sleazy, and I make no apologies for saying that, politics actually is. And we've got our eyes open to our politicians, our political parties, and our political system. And in a way that we fully understand that, well, there's a lot of work to be done in order to bring politics back to the place where it was meant to be. Politics is about people. Politicians, well, their job is to serve and to protect people and to represent people and to represent what it is that people needs. But of late, politics has become a place whereby that the wants of ideologies is the thing that goes forward, and people's needs are often forgot about. So at Restore GBNI, what we hope to do is that we hope to bring politics, UK politics, back to a place of the middle ground, back to a place where what is paramount is the needs of people, and back to the place where politicians that we elect, may I add, need to come back to serving and protecting and representing the people. So tonight we've got with us a man. He's involved in a new political party, and the political party is five-star direct democracy. And direct democracy, it's a wonderful concept. That concept actually aims to put politics back in the hands of the people, the control of politics, the control of politicians. And, you know, when people work together, I would call it a people-politician partnership. And I think that aims at what the essence of direct democracy is. And when people come together, well, much can be achieved. So without any further ado, what I would like to do is I would like to introduce a man called Gorman. And Ian, if you could maybe tell people, when I bring you in, just all about what it is that you're involved in, the political party that you're involved with, and what five-star direct democracy is all about. So, sorry, Ian, welcome, Ian, and that was my fault, Ian. That wasn't Ian's fault. I had him muted. But Ian, welcome on the stream. And look, just to sort of put you in the picture, you're the first person that we've had on a live stream, going live to our Restore people right across the UK. And I hope whenever this becomes big, and I genuinely hope that people gets behind it, but I hope that when it gets big, you remember that you were the first man on the screen, going direct live to the people of the UK. So, I mean, if I could ask you, Ian, could you just tell people all about what it is that you do and the type of the political party that you're involved in right now? And, you know, it does promote direct democracy. And tell us a little bit about direct democracy and how it would benefit people.
Shall do. Basically, I mean, we were originally known as the Democrats and Veterans Party. We formed in February 2018. And we've been, working with other parties around the country, developing our ideas and seeing, where basically politics in Britain needs to go. During the general elections last year, we supported the Brexit Party because they had basically the best opportunity, we thought, for somebody outside of the mainstream to make a breakthrough. And we focused on constituencies in Barnsley, Blaenau Gwent here in South Wales, and they were the best performing constituencies for the Brexit Party. It was mostly our activists and our system that we've developed that helped move forward in those areas. Direct democracy itself, I mean, I think it really comes out of a frustration with the two-party system here in the UK. We looked at what had happened sort of historically, and voices and no longer being heard as clearly as they might have been 50, 60 years ago. And we looked at the system itself. Some people have been campaigning for proportional representation. Would that really fix anything, or would that just give us a system where you've got constantly sort of hung parliaments like occur in several European countries? And we, as a group, came to the conclusion that the whole concept of representative democracy really doesn't work. For example, you could, if you were lucky enough to get your local candidates to actually knock on your door and talk to you and spend 20, 30 minutes actually talking to you about your concerns, I'm sure you'd see a lot of head nodding, and they'd get their clipboards out and they'd make notes of everything that you were saying, or but basically, once people get elected and get sent up to Westminster, they no longer represent their constituents. They are candidates under a party banner. They've got whips telling them how they're supposed to vote on stuff. You'll be lucky if you ever see them again. People just don't see their local MPs. They don't reach back out to people on a regular basis. And to be honest, those that do are really only talking to people within their own political space anyway. So what we're looking at is basically a post-political party system where we still need people in a parliament. What we need are people who are actually interested in representing the views of their entire constituents. And there's some technology that can be put into place to help with that. And instead of say me standing on what I believe in, other than some certain fundamentals like having constitutional rights and people being listened to and treated properly, my personal politics really shouldn't come into anything. My job would be to represent my 40,000, 50,000 voting constituents, all of them, and to take an active temperature, let's say, of where people are on certain issues. Now, what we also talk about, though, is major changes, major laws really should then be put back out to the electorate for the electorate to approve. We're also in favor of the sort of people-led petitioning for referendums on issues as well. Now, one concern some people have about that system is it's sort of the tyranny of the majority fear. Basically, people will talk about it sort of like the two wolves and the sheep getting to vote over who gets eaten for dinner. The fact that you could have a situation where 51% of the population votes to take everything away from the other 49%. And people are really concerned about that, and rightly so. So you really look at our current situation here in the UK, where we don't have a written modern Bill of Rights. We don't have a written constitution. Basically, the way politics works in the UK is every 5 years, we elect a dictatorship for the next 5 years. We don't have an independent judiciary anymore. We don't have anything that you can go back to. Now, I say that I didn't realize this growing up. I don't think most people would, except that I was lucky enough to live in the US for 23 years, where at least in the US, as part of your citizenship test anyway. You get tested on the Constitution and the Bill of Rights as part of your citizenship test. So ironically, a lot of naturalized US citizens get exposed to this stuff more than regular US citizens do. And you actually read what's in there and what rights you have and how things are supposed to be done. And you realize, well, that's great, because with those protections, you can have discussions about everything else. You can, you've got a mechanism, even if people wanted to change those written down constitutional rules, you can change them. And we realize that for direct democracy to work, you need those essentially safeguards in place that say that, for example, that your personal property cannot be seized and taken away from you except as the result of a conviction under law. That you have the right to free speech. I mean, I got to admit, when you're sitting in America and you're watching what's going on in the UK, and you start seeing people being chastised or, no platformed or whatever else you want to call it, basically because of what people are saying. You're not threatening anybody. You're just saying something that is now considered to be politically incorrect. And then somebody said to me, but in the UK, we still have freedom of thought. And it's like, well, what's the use of that if you can't tell anybody? So, I mean, these basic freedoms need to be recognized and put in place. So you've got, freedom of speech, freedom to assemble, to petition your government, basically peaceful protest without causing unnecessary disruption, and freedom of conscience, freedom of religion, freedom of your belief system, whatever that is, whether it's political or religious. So that's really what we're all about, is we want to take opportunities to get people into elected positions under the current system, because we can't just throw it away overnight, and then prove that with the right people and the right attitude, you can actually transform the way politics is done in this country. And hopefully, eventually, we will not have political parties in the current sense. You will have basically pressure groups that will represent on certain issues that are important to them, but the people actually making the decisions will be the people themselves, with their own sovereignty.
Yeah, I subscribe to the business of having people having more say within politics. In fact, just last year, on the run up to our general election, the 12th of December, here in Northern Ireland, the largest political party would be our DUP, and as a collective right across Northern Ireland, what we did was that we wanted the DUP elected, and the reason why we did is that they were the biggest party and they were more capable and they had the structure to represent us in a way that our I guess our rights would be best protected. So as a collective, we got together and we set up several meetings right around Northern Ireland, and this was what I seen to be a people politician partnership. And the only sad thing was that it didn't last, because it only lasted up until the election. And once they got our vote, well, we were only good for our vote, and we didn't matter anymore, was how I seen it. So we went on and we then set up a further set of meetings, and we had our first one in Fermanagh, which would be Enniskillen, in January of this year. And we got together some politicians from some of the big parties. A man called Tom Elliott used to be an MP. He was on stage with myself and some others. And what we did was that we began promoting this thing called a People Politician Partnership. And in essence, Ian, it was a direct democracy setup, because how I seen that, or how we seen that, was that if politicians could interact with people, if they could tell people what's coming down their line, not at the 11th hour, but well before the event happens, and then you've more chance of changing things, averting things, or turning things around. And unless we have our politicians working with us, and this isn't an attack on the DUP, because this is Western worldwide. I mean, we see it in America right now. We see it in England and Scotland and in Wales and in Northern Ireland. I mean, this is just I would say, the Americanization of our politics, whereby the political parties, they used to pretend to listen. Well, now they don't even pretend to listen, is the unfortunate thing. So we need a mechanism, and this is what I believe from the bottom of my heart. We need a mechanism that is going to bring politicians back to the point whereby they begin representing people and they begin implementing the will of the people. And I believe under your setup, that's the sort of thing that can happen. Now, I'm just going to say that at Restore, we don't, align to any particular political party. What our aim would be to give all political parties, all politicians, anyone who wants to stand up for the United Kingdom and Britishness and our right to be British and our right to continue as the United Kingdom. If there's any politician or political party that wants to stand up for those values, your freedom of speech, your freedom of expression, your right to criticize bad law, all of those things, that's what makes stability. And if there's any political party or politician or political setup that wants to stand up for those values, well, here at Restore, what we want to do is we want to give them a platform to be able to do so. So I want to thank you for coming on the stream this evening. Ian, if you don't mind, I'm just going to try to, I'm going to play a little video clip. And I just want you to have a look at something that happened within the last few days. And there's a politician, an MP in Westminster that had real concerns with reference to this issue. So I would just like to ask the people on the screen to bear with me. I'm relatively new to this software. I will get this video up and I will get it played. So if any hiccups, don't blame me. I'll get better at it. So here goes. Let me see. So I have to share screen.
Point of order, Sir Charles Walker.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I have just witnessed an elderly lady peacefully protesting with a handful of other people be arrested and carried spread eagle to a police van.
You must have some other. What an outrage! What a disgrace!
Just outside the precinct of the House of Commons. This is a disgrace. This is un-British. It is unconstitutional. And this government, our Prime Minister, needs to end these injustices now. Madam Deputy Speaker, will you bring the Prime Minister and all the Home Secretary here today to sort this out? She was an old lady robbed of her dignity for having the courage to protest about having her fundamental rights and those of my constituents and others removed.
Point of order, Sir.
It's really shocking, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
How on earth could somebody treat a lady like that? I really don't get how there could have been any justification for that whatsoever.
Yeah. When we're thinking about the right to protest, that's one of our inalienable rights, and that's not within the government's gift, any government's gift, to say that you now don't have that. And, we've got to talk about the elephant in the room, Ian. And the elephant in the room is what's happening in the background. And if we look at our mainstream media right now, It's all about a virus which is sweeping the world, and what it's doing is that it's killing people. Well, look, I'm not about to say that there's no virus out there, because obviously that there is, but there's viruses every year. And, never, ever, ever have we had our right to protest taken away. And I mean, that's what that MP was actually complaining about, was that lady has an inalienable right to protest. And I can tell you, this is how serious this is that if we can't protest against their government whenever they're implementing things that are detrimental to the United Kingdom as a whole, if we can't protest against that government, they can do what they want. And, they could change the face of how we live forever. So here at Restore, I mean, I personally, and the people that's behind the scenes, we talk about this often, and we'll do everything in our power. And, if we get enough people behind us, what we hope to do is we hope to form a powerful lobby. And, that's one sure way of bringing politicians to your table. That's one sure way of having politicians listen to you. Because, I mean, we're going to lead into what's happening in America now. And I would like to just quickly tell you a little story about the Democrats. And the Democrats come back into, I guess, 1995. And I'm going to ask you the question before we even finish here. But, have these people changed? Does a leopard ever change its spots? And I'm referring to the shenanigans, the goings on right now in the elections in America, and how that there's claims of mass voter fraud, and how that our mainstream media are painting a picture that they're unfounded, these claims. But look, if you only have to watch the testament and the testimony of the American electorate, and not just in one place, but right across the board. And these people are claiming that there is mass voter fraud, and there's mass inconsistencies with how machines were tallying votes, how that the vote poll watchers were kept away from watching whether there was anything underhand going on. And I know that you know a lot about that, and I'll let you answer a few questions in that. But let me just tell you a story about the Democrats and who the Democrats are and our experience of the Democrats. Did you know that the Democrats were behind pushing this thing that we have here in Northern Ireland called we call it the Belfast Agreement. Yeah. It's known to the wider world as the Good Friday Agreement. And a man called Bill Clinton and his good lady wife, Hillary Clinton, they were heavily involved in pushing this, along with a guy called George Mitchell. Now, my experiences of Bill Clinton when I was a young man, and I was a young man of say, 17 going forward, I remember looking at Bill Clinton and I remember thinking to myself that, that man is a hypocrite. And I make absolutely no apologies for saying that. And I'm going to tell you why that I would claim that. But you see, in 1995, that Bill Clinton stood in front of our Belfast City Hall, and there was an air of peace. Peace was in the air. Genuinely, we had been through here in Northern Ireland a huge conflict. And, I personally and other people on this screen, what we had seen was our good friends going down roads and ended up in graveyards as a result of the terrorism that was going on. And that was from both sides, was the truth of the matter. But, I'll mention one thing that happened, and I'll tell you why I had such an interest in all of this, is that, I came from a place called on the Shankill Road in Belfast. Right. And there's a time in our history, on the 23rd of October, back in 1993, when, 1993, 23rd of October, there's a time in our history known as the Shankill bomb. It's where a no-warning bomb was placed in a shopping area, and it killed 9 innocent men, women, and children. And, I had some friends that was blown up in that attack. And I can remember looking at that, and I remember thinking that this has to stop, because people are recognizing no boundaries and the depths that they're prepared to stoop in order to get one over on the other community. So this had me really interested in politics. And, you know, I remember that there was talk of peace, and there was a couple of ceasefires. I mean, the IRA, they had said that they were laying down their arms and they were choosing democratic means. And the Americans become involved in it, and Bill Clinton and his good life, his wife Hillary became involved in it. And by September in 1995, Bill Clinton stood in front of our Belfast City Hall and he said that, you know, it's good the people of Northern Ireland can put the past behind them. They can reach out. They can make amends for the bitterness and the hatred of the past. It's good that they can reach out into the other community. And, you know, blessed are the peacemakers. That was the term that he used. Now, the hypocrisy that I seen with Bill Clinton, who is involved in this Democrat Party in America, the hypocrisy that I seen as a young man was as simple as this. There was a thing that happened in around that time known as the Oklahoma bomb. And the Oklahoma bomb was where a veteran who was disgruntled, he placed a bomb in a government building in Oklahoma City. And what happened was he blew up 140 people and it maimed and injured countless more. Now, Bill Clinton, after telling us to reach out to the people who had, say, committed the Shanko bomb, and we need to embrace them and make peace, and blessed are the peacemakers. I mean, after doing that, he went back into America and he says that he would leave no stone unturned until he found the person that committed that atrocity, the Oklahoma bomb. And they did find him. They found one Timothy McVeigh, and they killed Timothy McVeigh with lethal injection. Now, contrast that to what happened here in Northern Ireland. Terrorists were put in our government, and still to this day, IRA terrorists are in our government. And those people are there with one sole aim and one sole purpose. And I blame the Democrats for this. I blame Bill Clinton, and I blame Bill Clinton's party and Bill Clinton's successors for making this and continuing on in the way that this has happened. But those people have terrorized us. They traumatize, they re-traumatize victims. And the Americans, well, the Democrats, they think that that's okay to do so. I remember when I was a young man, and I'm leading to a question here, I wrote a piece, and the piece was, when is a terrorist act an act of terrorism? Well, when it's in America, it's an act of terrorism. When it's on the Shankill Road, it's not an act of terrorism. And I found that to be very, very hypocritical. And today, in 2020, when I look at these people, I ask the question, and this is leading to you, but has that leopard ever changed its spots, would be my question.
It's a very good question, actually. Reminds me of a few things. I mean, always the sort of Irish Republican community in the US, especially places like Boston and Chicago, New York, have always flocked to the Democrat Party, just the way it's been. For some reason, I remember sitting in a bar in Houston in the mid-90s, actually the late 90s, and people coming around and collecting money for the IRA in public in a bar, you know. So this is still sort of going on. I mean, your general observation is right, and I'll actually expand it a little bit. The Democrat Party seems to be the one that gets us involved in a lot of conflicts, or, you know, America involved in a lot of conflicts. This is supposed to be the left of center party that would be based on other similar parties around the world, you would think would be the one that didn't want to get involved in military action, military occupations, funneling loads of money into the industrial military complex, which is a thing, and it's massive in, you know, obviously in the US. And it just doesn't really line up with their base. You would think that most people who are Republicans, yeah, they're pro-police, they're pro the military. They're not necessarily opposed to sending the military into every little trouble spot that pops up around the world. But they obviously they like the military, they like the history, they like the law and order side of things. You've got the Democrat Party that attracts a lot of younger sort of peacenik types, yet it's the party that gets them into these situations that they're then terrible at extracting themselves from.
Yeah.
So there's a conflict in there, you know, somewhere, and it is almost, I can't really put it in a good way. I mean, you can't point it out to people. You know, that people's alignment to different political parties in the US is very sort of traditional, family, based on where you're from, based on where your grandparents come from, and all this sort of stuff. And it is very entrenched. You know, so look at the elections in the US. You've got certain states. There's only certain states that are really in play, and within those states, there's only a percentage of what they term as. So you've got swing states with swing voters that effectively make the decision for the whole country. It's a very powerful, rigid system. I was coming based on some discussions I had recently. I was looking at the cost, the amount of money involved in politics in the US. Now, the average person who's elected to the US Senate, basically the cost of winning a US Senate election is about £7.5 million. So every time you run for Senate and win, on average, you have raised and spent £7.5 million, right? Whereas done properly here in the UK, with £30,000 tops per MP. It's a machinery. It's the Democratic Party is obviously tied in with the unions. It's tied in with big business. I mean, it's the money involved is just absolutely mental over there, and that is, you know, the corruption that's therefore involved is crazy. I'll tell you something that's quite interesting. I don't know if you remember when Obama was president-elect. Previously, he'd been the senator for the state of Illinois, which has been under Democratic control for quite a while. Well, the governor of Illinois, a guy called Rod Blagojevich, got caught basically trying to sell Obama's Senate seat to the highest bidder, because when a senator leaves office mid-term, the governor gets to appoint a senator to serve out the existing term. So this guy gets caught, basically an FBI sting operation, eventually gets sentenced to jail for 14 years. Trump commuted the sentence earlier this year. The guy basically served, I think he ended up serving about 8 years. And recently, this chap was interviewed and asked this question about voting fraud and the Democratic Party. And with a quite straight face, he sat there and said, "Is the Pope a Catholic?" This, you know, this system that they have in place is huge. You know, they go around in certain states. They're allowed to go, and instead of you mailing your ballot in or taking it to going to a polling station and voting, party operatives can go around and collect up votes. Okay, why you would ever want that to happen, I just don't get. But basically the idea is that they go out to their known voters, they collect the votes, they've been filled in, they then deliver them to the counting stations. It's nuts. I mean, you're not talking about votes in a sealed box like we do here. You're just talking about votes collected, thrown into a cardboard box in the back of somebody's car. Now, you can be pretty sure that those votes get tampered with.
Yeah.
They recently, everybody in the US that paid taxes got a nice little refund check for $1,200. They found out after they sent out all these refund checks that there were 1.1 million dead people on the list.
Right.
You know, so the issue you've really got in the USA is you can't think of the USA as one country. It's basically 50 different countries that have different rules on even elections. There is no one central federal election law. The states are allowed to determine how they run their own elections. So where you've got states where one party has been in control for a large number of time and they've set the rules, you know, the possibility for fraud is just open. So
Yeah.
that is a major weakness of the system out there. And you know, it is definitely not a perfect system in any way, shape, or form. You know, I've seen a few comments flying by about the US Constitution. The US Constitution was based on Magna Carta. Okay, it was based on our Bill of Rights. Now, ironically, today they've got it written down. You can print it out. As I say, you have to learn it. And we shouldn't be we in the UK should not be critical of anything that the US has done, because it is, to be honest, it's better than what we've done for our darn selves. We've got to catch up, and what we're looking at doing is going back to Magna Carta, the whole document. Yeah, I know some people say that there are only certain clauses that are still effective, but we'll go through. We want to look at everything. We want to look at the whole constitutional history of this country, and we want to pull it all together. We want to see, and there's probably a few things in there that are just so arcane that they don't make any sense anymore, but we want to put together a Bill of Rights. That Bill of Rights will quote word for word all the source documents that we've pulled from, and then to translate into modern English, because you can't really look at documents that were written 800 years ago and say, oh, I think I know what that word means, because we don't. It takes, we'll have to go through and look at what things really mean. And our basic concept is there are rights that human beings have that are inalienable, that should never ever be taken away. So that old lady's right to protest, is there. That has to be there. No government should ever be able to take that away. Your right to not have your property seized without due course of law. Your right to be able to defend yourself. All those things have to be in there. And then you have to define what government can do, not what it can't do. You actually write out, this is what government is responsible for, this is what it can do. And that's it. If we then want to change that, you put a mechanism in place to do it.
Yeah.
And let's, as a group of people, then focus on how do we make our society work the best for, I say all of us, but in reality, as many of us as possible within a structure like that. Now, if you wanted to ask, well, what do people think in the US about what's going on? I think most of them are horrified. I think most of them no longer know who to trust. I've seen all the stuff on the internet. If I've not just come across it myself, I've got people sending it to me. It doesn't matter, what group they're from. I was, my area of Texas was predominantly Republican. So that the Hispanics voted Republican, the African Americans voted Republican. My favorite Cambodian half Mexican pizza parlor owner voted Republican. Yeah, it's people are just horrified. And yeah, I just before we came on here, something had popped up about a study that and the stories that some of us have seen about Biden.
Sorry, Ian, could you just say that again? Study it seemed to break up
Yeah,
there.
a study that had popped up, not more than about an hour ago. And it was a study of the impact that the media has had on the election result.
Yeah.
And basically, they asked people before the election if they were aware of certain stories. The Hunter Biden laptop, the way that Joe Biden managed to get the prosecutor in the Ukraine dismissed, and certain other, sort of high-level stories that you've probably seen in social media. And it turned out that people in the States who rely on the mainstream media, on some of those stories, 50% of the Democrats, people intending to vote Democrat, had not even seen the stories. They had been that heavily suppressed. And then when they asked them, well, would that make a difference to you if that was, an issue that you were aware of? And I think I haven't read, I just scanned it before we came on here, but you're basically looking at, somewhere around 12-15% of people who probably ended up voting Democrat, saying that if that was something that they were aware of, they wouldn't have voted Democrat.
Yeah.
So the media is so incredibly powerful. I mean, I get annoyed. I mean, I just cannot listen to the ITV news now in the evening going on about, there's all these unsubstantiated claims of election fraud. You got to be kidding me. Election fraud is a reality. That you cannot possibly make an unsubstantiated claim about the existence of election fraud. It is rife in certain parts of the US, and it's on both sides. I'm pretty darn sure I've seen Republican activists get convictions as well. The problem is that they're only now convicting the people who were caught doing things in the 2016 elections. People in California that were caught intercepting boxes of blank ballots and filling them out and then turning them in. These people are now, going to be doing 8 to 10 years in a federal pen, but the damage is done.
Yeah.
So it really is not a good system. It's got the same sort of problems that we have. It's just multiplied by the amount of money that's available out there. If imagine if you were spending £7.5 million on your campaign, how many people have you got working for you?
Yeah.
You've probably got upwards of 100 people full time working on your campaign. I've done campaigns here. I helped Nathan Gill last year down here in Caerphilly. There was me. There was about a dozen people who had come out and maybe put in on average an hour a day. There was Nathan himself when he wasn't tied up doing other things he had to do. And one chap that basically helps fund Nathan's campaigns from North Wales. That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to still pull in a decent percentage of the vote. It is totally wild out there. Before I moved back, I was actually approached by the Republican Party in Brazoria County where I lived, which is the area that Ron Paul lives in. And they asked me, did I want to become a justice of the peace? I'm not a lawyer. I have no legal background, but you can become a JP, basically a judge without any legal background out there. And I said, well, what about the money? I can't afford to. And they're like, oh, we can give you $250,000 to get started. You know what I mean? And it's just like, no. I knew anyway that things had changed with the family back here, and I needed to come back and support the family. But that's how it's done out there.
Yeah.
Think about it. Would you invest $7.5 million to earn about 300,000 a year for 6 years?
Oh.
You've got negative rate of return. You do not do this. You cannot get into politics out there without having the machines behind you.
Yeah. And then that's open to the machine's corruption, is the truth of the matter. And I mean, that's how we see it. And that's why I started off by saying that, it's the Americanization of our politics, which we're witnessing right now. And something, I would rather have one man, one vote every day of the week and twice on a Sunday. And Ian, I'd just like to, at this stage, I'd like to bring in our other guest. Another guest is sitting in the background at the minute. This is a man called John Brennan. And John Brennan, he comes from the northeast of England, and he's a military veteran, and a man that works tirelessly for the politics in the United Kingdom, for keeping the United Kingdom together, and for bringing unionists together. And when I say tirelessly, I mean that this man is a 24/7 man. Well, maybe not a 7 man because he goes to his church, but I know no doubt that politics is never further from his mind whenever even he's there. So without any further ado, I'd like to bring John Brennan in. And John, whenever you come in, whenever I bring you in, I'd just like you to say hello to the people. And, we're talking about Union First here. Union First, as I say, it's a system on Facebook which aims to bring unionists together right around the United Kingdom to fight for each other's survival in a meaningful and a proactive way. And there you go, John. I'd like to just for you to give an introduction whenever you come in.
All right, everyone. Sorry about my late attendance here tonight. I was actually on a District Orange Zoom meeting. Not only do I work 5 out of 7 days and then attend meetings on a night time and tirelessly lobby and be involved in politics and my own Facebook group, which I started a number of years ago. I'm also involved in local community activism and stuff for the Orange Order, and hold that against me or not, but it's a good organisation, it's a charitable organisation, and we will do what we can for everybody, regardless of their religion. Union First came about because I was tasked with a good friend of mine to go through some of late brother Drew Nelson, the Grand Secretary, Grand Orange Lodge possessions as he passed away, that was being donated to the Orange Heritage Museum up in East Belfast. And as we're going through this stuff, like this man, history, his whole place was like so much history in one man and in one thing, in one house, straight to the museum. Unbelievable amount of history he had. Came across a card. The card was a Union First membership card. On the Union First membership card, it was about bringing people together. And I just thought, that was maybe the 70s this was about. And you can't really find much about it. I Googled it, and you can't really find much about this group or organization, what it was or how it came about. But I thought the aim of that group was brilliant, because to me, an Englishman settling in Northern Ireland, politics and people over here, politics is mental, the people is very, very friendly. But coming from a military background, that depends on what side, well, that depends on where you go. I wouldn't go to West Belfast and tell people I was in a military background, because people wouldn't just be too friendly. But I came across this card and I just thought, why ever it didn't work back whenever it was, 70s or 80s, probably because people were so divided, so entrenched, the hatred and those people being murdered, and the media would portray it as Protestants against Catholics. Now, granted, majority of the IRA were predominantly, I would say, Roman Catholic, and the predominantly Unionist side were Protestants. Though I remember watching a documentary, and the first ever IRA man ever to be killed was a Protestant because of the Protestant background. And I just thought, as soon as I finished putting the stuff away that night and sorting out this stuff for the late brother Drew Nelson, I came home that night and I created a group and I created a page, but I just let the page sit until we want to use it. And I just thought, it's right. Whatever I tried to do back in the day is exactly right, because regardless of one's religion, one's community, be them Roman Catholic, Protestant, LGBT, whatever people's religion and community is, wherever they're from, wherever they live, wherever part of the United Kingdom they are from, we all have one common goal. And the group is filled with it's filled with people from LGBT community, Roman Catholics, it's filled with Labour people, it's filled with Unionists from Northern Ireland, and there's no stauncher people, and it's filled with people from Scotland, it's filled with people from across the United Kingdom, a wide variety of people. And that's what I wanted. But it's when you're trying to bring so many different people of different backgrounds and different beliefs together, we will never. And I keep posting every now and again when you see not bitter comments, but comments that might be deemed derogatory towards other members. And we have rules to stop that. And people respect them, because no matter what we believe, like you'll never get a staunch Protestant that goes to church every Sunday, really religious man, agreeing with somebody of the LGBTQ community, because there's religion, and that's our way of life. That's a Christian way of life. But we all understand that together we are the union. The union is bigger than any one community, any one religion, regardless of our political persuasions and regardless of our community or our religion. We all have that one common interest and one common goal, that the people are better off within the United Kingdom. And that is worth sticking around for, trying to get involved for, debating stuff. And I was saying this to John the other night. We're talking about getting political leaders involved in these kind of discussions. And it's very difficult, even in a closed group. My closed group has just over 5,000 people in it. And we lost, I think it was 2,100 people last year when Facebook changed the algorithm. They just dropped overnight. Now, the majority of unionists, because it is a unionist group, we vet people before coming in, we check their likes, we check their page of the likes, they'll check who they follow, and we try not to let people in of a nationalist Republican, because it'll just ruin the place and people want to be free to say what they like. So we'll keep it closed and we'll keep it tight knit. And I've got 6 moderators from different backgrounds, different walks of life, to moderate this group. And within it, you go through the member list, and the main political leaders within unionism and the big MLAs, the big names, are all within this group. They never engage. I think there's 1 or 2, but they never seem to. The main players never engage. They're always listen. They're always watch. They're always alert, because they're always there. They've never left. And they're always staying, no matter how big the bashing that political party gets, they remain in the group. And I believe the reason they remain in that group is because they know it's a diverse group. And if one person posts on a topic that is engaging to them, and it sees, and they can see a number of different people from a number of different backgrounds, from a number of different religions, all commenting with the same opinion, that then sways their opinion and makes, hopefully, and it has done in the past because I've seen it, changes the direction in which they go. But like I said to John, they just never engage. And if they did, people would respect them more. But the way things are in Northern Ireland at the minute, if I was sitting in the issues, I don't think I'd be too quick to come forward or engage unless I was doing it face to face with somebody and making sure, me, I'm an outgoing guy, I'm a Geordie. grew up in South Shields. We're all friendly. Same as the people over here. We talk to everybody. We speak to everybody. And we're generally outgoing people. But it's almost like the main political parties here have reclused into themselves, and they've become such a tight-knit community within themselves that they think that they know what the people want without actually engaging with the wide spectrum of people throughout the 4-year term or the 5-year term that they said. They think because they've created a system of politics that will get them elected every 4 years, even if the people don't agree with the politics, they've created and manipulated the system of politics here, which allows them to be re-elected every time because they've created the fear mechanism. And creating fear makes people easy to be controlled. So even if you don't like a political party's policies, people will still go out and vote because the fear is we will get the Sinn Féin First Minister. And to be honest with you, I don't know how far John wants me to talk on this, but I could talk all night.
You're okay, John. John, I would just like to move the conversation on to Ian. I mean, we would let you proceed there because I can see Ian's chomping at the bit there, wanting to come in. And the reality is that what you're explaining, although that you're explaining Northern Ireland politics, I think you're explaining Westminster too, and you're also explaining probably American politics. And we talked about it at the start. We said it's the Americanization of our politics, where the politicians, they pretend to care for people on the run up to elections, and then come election time, as I have said at the start of this stream, that you're only good for your vote, and after the vote, then you don't matter anymore, and you'll not be required until. Now, I say that there's a huge flaw in that strategy, and this is the flaw, because what that does is that disenfranchises people from politics, that disconnects people from politicians, and come next election time, it's gradually, I mean, our vote in terms of British Unionists in Northern Ireland, I mean, it's diminishing. And I'm so glad to see, John, and we will touch on this at the end with yourself. You're involved in a political party also, and we'll give you the opportunity to tell people why that people should vote for your political party come towards the end of the stream. But Ian, would you just like to pick up on that? And would you just like to mirror what John said, and you put that now in a Westminster context and see, I mean, does it sound similar to you, Ian?
Well, it's exactly the same. I mean, the problem with politics is the politicians. The whole system is flawed. I mean, until we get away from it. I mean, I was talking on another stream last night to some chaps that I've known for a while, and it's like you've got all these parties out there that are popping up left, right, and center right now. A lot of them have really good ideas about what they'd like to do. But until we actually change the mechanism of politics itself, nothing's going to happen. We've got to get away from this electing MPs on party lines until we get to it. In a way, it almost reminds me of the way they used to do things back in Roman times. You elected a couple of people. They acted as the representatives and the rulers essentially for a year at a time. We need a system where somebody goes up to Westminster maybe twice and that's it. I mean, we've got the same sort of term limits issues in the US. So we really need people who are just at a stage of life where they want to represent their communities. They're able to do it. They're not looking for a career. They're willing to be judged based on how well they do their job, which is to represent people and not to push and vote for party politics. Until we get away from that, where I mean, if I wanted to get involved in politics here in South Wales, I've basically got two choices: Labour and Plaid Cymru. Well, I'm not Welsh enough for Plaid Cymru. They've already told me that. Even though my mother's family's been here for generations, I'm not Welsh enough for them. So yeah, I guess I could sort of sell my soul and join the Labour Party so I could have some political career. I'm not going to do that, obviously. But yeah, it locks out so many people. And you're right. It causes people to disengage. It lowers voter turnout. It basically gives the political parties what they want, which is a disenfranchised electorate.
Yeah.
That, is just, gets used to this idea that we can get all these promises made to us every 4 or 5 years, and then basically nothing's going to happen anyway. I mean, they've lowered the voting age here in Wales to 16 for local elections and for the Senate elections. And, they're going to make all these promises to these 16 and 17-year-olds. Oh, you're all going to get to go to college. It's all going to be free. They're giving them free bus passes until they're 29 or something in Wales. It's just craziness. This is, it's totally missing the point about what they're supposed to be doing. It's like Rome at the end. It's it's give them bread and circuses to keep the population happy, while everybody else is basically ripping off as much money as they can, and the system collapses on them.
Yeah.
That's where we're at. Maybe we are sort of, Western culture has got almost to that stage now where it's ripe for replacement. So the question is then, what comes next? We've got to go back to basics. We've got to go back to individual people and communities, and people have got to feel free to say what they feel about things. And the only right you should have really when it comes to speech is to be offended. That is your right, to be offended.
Yeah.
You don't have a right to stop anybody else from saying something because you're offended. Just get used, things offend people.
Yeah, indeed. I would just like to ask, and this is a question for the two of you, and if one person, John, you can go first, and then yourself, Ian, if you can go second. But whenever you just said there, Ian, about are we ripe for a change, for something else? And we hear about this thing that they're talking about, and they call it the Great Reset, quote unquote, and it seems to be the elephant in the room that the mainstream media isn't talking about, our politicians are not talking about, but everything seems to be pushing towards this. So we will go into that on another feed, and we'll back this up with what's there on the World Economic Forum and in the International Monetary Fund websites, and even on the Great Reset websites. And we can show people that this is where we seem to be heading. Now, it seems to be, and this is, I remember talking to an RTE journalist from the south, Southern Ireland, and she said to me that progress, push forward. As long as it's progressive, it doesn't matter where you're going. It doesn't matter if you're heading towards a cliff. You've just got to keep moving forward. Look, you said that it's time for change, Ian. And this is the question to John, and then I would like you to answer the same thing. But should we go back, or should we keep continuing to go forward? That's the question. John?
I think if we're going to keep going forward to what? To me, countries need to be run like businesses, and Trump hit that nail smack bang clean on the head. It's not about linking your country to globalization when globalization is affecting the very people that you're supposed to be representing. Countries need to be run like businesses. The people you represent are the people you put first, not everybody else. Now, every time I hear progressive, the first thing I think of is, it's not liberal. Now, conservative-minded, Christian-minded people are always attacked by so-called progressive people that have always that seem to want to be heard by everybody, but then they'll shout down bigot at anybody that doesn't want to hear them. To me, if a country is going to go forward, it has to have a plan to go forward to better its own people, the people that live and reside within the country, to protect those people first and foremost, and to make them people better off. To do that, and me and John spoke about this many times, you put the needs of our people first. When all the needs of our people have been met, then we'll look at the wants, the political wants for different people, different opinions, different political parties. But first and foremost, I believe, I don't even think it's going back anywhere, because as long as we're making changes, as long as we're making positive changes, we're progressing our own society to something better. Now, I honestly, and I don't know anybody's background that's watching this tonight. I honestly thought we were better on our own people when we voted to leave the European Union. And I thought progressing, looking after our own people, spending our own money on our own people to make us better off. And I still think that's possible. The only difference is I kind of feel like Northern Ireland's being left out, left behind, pushed to one side to allow the rest of the United Kingdom to progress to better themselves while leaving this part of the United Kingdom behind. But yes, progressive is a good thing, but not the way the liberal elite media say you need to progress. We need to progress to better ourselves, to better our communities, to better our people. And our politicians that we elect should be benefiting us more than them benefiting themselves and benefiting other countries that they have vested interest in behind the scenes. But I think that'll do me, John.
Yeah, you covered a heck of a lot there. I mean, yeah, if we want to talk about this whatever this great reset thing is, it's a name for, it's been called other things in the past, and to be honest, it quite horrifies me. To me, it's socialization. It's the replacement of the individual with defined groups. It's almost like this divide and conquer. You've got to fit into one of these groups somewhere to be able to participate in the process going forward. And ironically, it is, if we go that way, we'll be going backwards, but we won't be going back to anything good. We'll be going backwards to a time when people lived and died in the same areas because they won't have the opportunity to progress themselves, to travel. There'll be no more, hey, I need you over in Nashville for a film shoot. Get over here in 3 days. That won't be happening anymore. It's very regressive, and it just doesn't, it feels like it's sort of planned. It's these, everybody coming up with these Green New Deals. I mean, I'd love new technology that replaces all forms of pollution. I really would. I've wanted that for years. When I was a kid, I thought by now we'd have cracked fusion. We'd have all these fusion power plants around the country. We'd all be 100% reliable electric, everything. There'd be no smoke, no soot, no dirt, but the technology's not there. So what are we actually being pushed towards? You got Joe Biden wanting to stop fracking. I mean, America's energy independent. America is now a net exporter of energy. When you go home and you turn on your gas stove, chances are the gas coming out is from America. Okay, this idea that we're all sort of going to live in a life where we're not going to travel abroad, people are not going to own vehicles. I mean, South Wales here, most people couldn't possibly own an electric car here because most people, you can't park in front of your own house here.
No.
I mean, I'm lucky where I am, but where we lived before, closer into town, no, we couldn't park in front of our own house. We couldn't park behind our own house. So there's just too much insanity going on in general right now. I don't buy into this idea that there has to be a new normal. I think, and I don't like the way that certain parts of the political spectrum have essentially stolen the word progressive. I think everybody wants progress, but we want good progress. We just don't want progress for the sake of progress. You know, change is good, but not all change is good.
You were saying there about them green deals and everybody pushing about green this and green that and stop eating meat because cows cause methane and it's all. And I maintain, I followed steaks from a shelf in Northern Ireland. Now, they originated in the Republic. They went to Lithuania after it was cold for processing. They came back to the Republic for whatever else. They then went across to the UK to be packaged, and then they came back across to Northern Ireland supermarket to be finished and to be sold. Now, how many air miles is that steak, that one cow got?
Craziness, isn't it?
Now, I maintain, and I honestly maintain this, I've posted about this a couple of times, the amount of planes in the sky at any one time and the amount of ships and vessels on the sea. Now, imagine how much tons of CO2 and carbon they're doing. Now, I remember watching a documentary about 6 months ago, and it said a family of 4 can eat meat for 40 years. And if they go on one family holiday, that's it wiped out. Going on one holiday is equivalent to eating meat every day for 40 years. Now, these people will be going on holiday maybe once, twice, sometimes 3 times a year, some people.
Right.
What we need to do, I believe what we need to be doing is eating within our means and living within our means. Yes, I'm not saying don't go on holiday because everybody's going to go on holiday. But if we've got cattle in the UK or even in the Republic of Ireland, why the hell we're sending it to Lithuania to be processed and then back again and then back out again and back again? When if it's coming from the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, it's 60 bloody miles. Why we're flying it halfway around Eastern Europe to come back? Where's the sense in that? And that they're talking about meat. Wrecks me. Wrecks me. Fruit and veg too. We can grow fruit and veg in the UK. We can live. The way it used to be is you lived on seasonal fruit and veg. You didn't expect strawberries regardless of the season. We're flying fruit and veg in hundreds and thousands of miles every day to stock up all our supermarkets and stuff. Now, that's not a bad thing. But if they're going to talk about cutting carbon emissions, let's look at stocking seasonal fruit and veg and getting back to that instead of people wanting, exotic fruit and veg every single day when they're not even thinking about how's it getting to here and how's it getting to my plate. And it's coming off a plane and then it's going by road to how many supermarkets it's going to. It's crazy, but you never hear anybody talk about that because it's convenience shopping.
That's a definite. And I would just sort of like to lead on to something else here. But before we do, there's a comment there on the screen, and it's from Richard Tal, and it says that progressing at 90 miles an hour in the wrong direction. Well, look, I happen to subscribe to that very comment. Is that I would say that the very meaning of the word progressive has been changed to meaning the opposite, regressive, because let's tell you what progressive has done just over the last number of months since lockdown. Black Lives Matter. Was that progressive or regressive? Race relations in the United Kingdom were fairly good, and it was getting to the stage where people were generally accepting of each other. And I know that England had its problems in the 80s and whatnot, but that had relatively sort of washed itself out of society, was the truth of the matter. Well, except of course for the the gangs and the gang warfare and the stabbing and the acid attacks and all of those things. But to bring a militia on the streets of England and for the government, for the security services, the Metropolitan Police, and for just in general for the system to take the knee to this crowd of and let's not make any mistake about describing these people. These people had claimed and said that they were trained in Marxism. Marxism, yeah. And they weren't inclusive. What they were, Black Lives Matter. I think a better slogan would have been that all lives matter. every lives matter. You know, whether you were Chinese, whether you were Asian, whether you were, you know, British or whatever, but all lives matter.
I
And
never,
that's
I never.
John, that's what Progressive has done. So just for the purpose of getting the show sort of moving on, I'd like to sort of move on to something else here. Restore. Restore, whenever the name came up, I mean, I started off with the group Reclaim, and we talked about reclaiming the centre ground of politics, but restore the centre ground of politics, restore it to what I believe should be decent, law-abiding citizens wanting the best for the communities, wanting to work with each other for the mutual benefit of everyone, being open and inviting to others, and no matter why you've got a different type of politics than those other people, well, you see, you can live, you can coexist with those people on an everyday life. And you know, I'll take you to this name Restore, and it's about restoring common sense within British politics. And I'm just giving you a few areas where Restore could be put in front of. So the question is this time, and again, we'll flow in exactly the same way. And when I pose this question, I'll be dipping out for a second, for I'm going looking for a video here to play. But John, what would you put the name Restore in front of? What would be dear to your heart? What do you think that needs restored within the United Kingdom today? And after John, Ian, if you could just answer the same question, please.
I think we would need to restore the United Kingdom, restore our pridefulness in being individuals and communities within our United Kingdom. I believe the United Kingdom is a good thing. I believe we need to restore our political system to allow people to be prideful and patriot towards the United Kingdom. It's not a dirty word. It's, you know, I was seeing a post there earlier on, you go and wave any kind of flag. Now, I'm an Englishman, and you go and wave a Scottish flag, it's not nationalism. You go and wave an English flag, you're racist. And there's nothing wrong with the flags of our communities and our countries and our states. There's nothing wrong with the United Kingdom flag. You know, we just need to respect it a bit more. We need to restore our faith in our politicians, but they have a long way to go to be able to, you know, that's actions speak louder than words, and there's no point in me saying we need to restore our faith if they're telling us one thing and doing another, because that faith will never be restored. But yeah, I believe we need to restore our pridefulness, and I think it belongs with educating our children to allow them to think that it's okay to be proud of our great nation. It's okay to big up our United Kingdom. At every chance we get, we should be proud of the fact that we live here in a country that allows us to live free as people, wherever we come from. We should be proud of the fact that we have, what am I going to say here? Try to get the words out right. We have the Commonwealth. We have people from around the world come under one umbrella, the Commonwealth. We should restore faith within the United Kingdom and within the Commonwealth. Why do I say that? Because the European Union has this big idea that they're the European Parliament. They're a massive entity, and they can do whatever they like. They've got the best in trade, the best in everything. And think about it. We joined the EU, and our pride in the Commonwealth seemed to lapse. Our faith in the Commonwealth, you know, we stepped back away from the Commonwealth. Now, the Commonwealth is 52 countries, as far as I'm aware. 52 countries with one head of state, our Queen, and everybody is proud of that fact. Now, we could be a massive world power if we restored our Commonwealth to what it should be, all come together. We could free trade with 52 countries, buying agreements from the rest of the world. Like, who wouldn't want to trade with a Commonwealth nation that stretches the breadths and widths of the world before reaching any European Union? You know, I think we need to restore our faith in our own country, faith in our politicians, and restore our faith within the Commonwealth, and do our best to come together as one nation again.
Yeah. Ian?
Sorry, I've done a wee bit there. I hope you're not on a time limit here.
what do I want to restore? I want to restore our faith, our positivity, our hope in our British idea. Okay, there's other countries around the world that have taken our idea, basically. Um, it's not about being British. In a way, is bigger than being someone who is born or lives on these islands. I mean, it's a bigger idea than that, and it's something that we should be um, putting forth again. It's a very positive set of ideas, but we need to make those ideas a little more real than they are right now. I mean, there is so much negativity and regression within the UK at the moment, and we need to turn that around. We need to tell people that it's okay to try something and fail, because it's the act of trying to make things better that makes things better. The failures don't matter. We just have to restore faith in human nature, human beings. Diversity is a great thing. I had friends from every background you can possibly imagine, and it's wonderful. There's no need to homogenize everything and socialize everything and flatten everything. It's not going to be an interesting world to live in. And I'm sure if you ask anybody that's lived behind the Iron Curtain or in Venezuela or China even, it is not a nice way to live. There is nothing hopeful about the future.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd like us to do. And to do that, to be honest, we've got to get rid of all these darn politicians, because they're just standing in the way and messing everything up.
So, in one single sentence, Ian, restore. What would you restore?
I'd hope to restore our hope and our positivity for the future.
Yeah, well, that's a good comment. And John, over to you. Could we just bring that down to a one-liner? John, restore.
It's very difficult for a one-liner, John, because there's just so much. But I would restore our faith within the education system to allow people to be prideful of the United Kingdom.
Yeah, and I asked that question because we want some small cut videos to send to you so that you can put out across Twitter and YouTube and so on. So on to the next thing. The United Kingdom right now at the minute, I mean, we're divided. Let's face it, we are a divided country, and you mentioned the schooling there. And it's a result of how our children are being taught in schools. I mean, they're being taught. I remember I heard Donald Trump putting out a video, and on his video he says that they're actually teaching people here in America to hate America, to hate everything we stand for, to hate the flag. And in a way, although that sometimes they're not just as open about it, some of the policies that they're teaching in schools right now actually does teach young children or young people that Britain, Great Britain, the United Kingdom over the years, they have been nothing but bad, is what they're teaching. So go ahead, Ian. What would you change in terms of?
I think it started here first. I
Yeah.
think a lot of this started back in the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is, I left the country in '89, and I was coming on 24, 25 when I left. And a few years later, I met another sort of cohort of British expats that had moved out to Houston to work in the technology sector. And these were guys that had basically just finished their degrees in the UK, couldn't get a job here, got signed up to work in the States. And so they weren't, they were probably at that time, probably 8 to 10 years younger than I was when I met these guys. And the attitudes that they had about the UK, families, church, all the things that even my generation was brought up with was totally different. It was just and they didn't fit in America at all, because America, if anything, is behind us. America is still a more traditional culture. If you don't go to church in America on a Sunday, you're weird. You stand out. If you want to run for elected office out there, in, I would say, probably 95% of America, and you say that you are not a practicing Christian, you will not get elected. You'll not even get nominated and put on the ballot. Okay.
Yeah.
That is, and people are very proud of that. That their lives over there are about family, business, their church lives, and everything that they do. And here, it's even in the mining communities here in South Wales, the community spirit, pride, it's just gone.
Yeah.
The churches are closed and being converted into restaurants and homes, or knocked down full stop. In America, they're building churches. They're building huge churches. They're building churches that will seat 36,000 people at a time in Houston.
A stadium, like football stadiums, like.
It used to be the basketball stadium.
Mm-hmm.
The church out there took over the old basketball stadium and turned it into, it's a mega church. It really is. But you've got loads of them out there. So I would say that we're actually ahead of America, and what we're maybe seeing now is the sort of militant people, the militant tendency types that we had back in the 80s are now the squad in America.
Yeah.
The AOCs and the other young Democrat congresswomen, women. I always look as Britain, as far as our change, as being ahead of America. So it's hopeful out there that there's a turning around. That what they're finding now is that the millennial, the kids that were born around 2000, that are just coming into maturity now to vote, are actually more conservative again. Some of them have seen through what they're being told, but it just depends where you are. It's such a big, diverse place. I'm sure if you were brought up in Brooklyn in New York, or parts of San Francisco, that you've been given a very different picture of what America's about. And you probably do hate America. I mean, how can these kids be told that they have never experienced wealth when they live in the richest country on the planet, the richest that there has ever been? And it's there for you,
Yeah.
I know people that have literally come into that country with nothing, that have made great lives. Their average standard of living out there is way beyond what we experience here.
Yeah.
The poorest state in the US is Mississippi. Mississippi is 50% richer than Wales on a per capita basis.
Yeah,
So hopefully, they won't suffer that same sort of decline. But it's going to take a lot of work, and it's got to sort of start now, and it's
Absolutely. Well, the one good thing at the minute is that the way that the recent election has went, and if Biden does become the president of the United States, you see, that's enough probably to reinvigorate a lot of people in America. And I would say that they'll grow stronger as a result. and the next time around, they'll be ready, willing, and able in order to try to push forward. So that'd be a good thing for America. So just in closing, I'm going to ask one more question, and it's with reference to the mainstream media. And the mainstream media and the shenanigans that goes on. I often say that the media is a very that's not a term that really describes these people nowadays. I would really put them down as activists as opposed to mainstream media. So it's hurt us. It's hurt people in America. It's hurt people right across the Western world, I guess. And as you said earlier, even with reference to the voting, in America, that there's huge interest that put money into having people elected into office. And in my book, whenever you put a lot of money into having someone elected, well, you really own that person, is the truth of the matter, and you control them. And that's, in my honest opinion, what has happened to the mainstream media over time, is that they either, there's two ways that this has unfolded the way that it has, in my honest opinion. The people that in the media, they're either activists and they have their own ideology to push forward, or number two, there's a lot of money slushing around the system to be got, and if they can promote a certain way or a certain way of life, then they can collect that money. Here in the United Kingdom, we often see, from the Brexit process going forward, it was as if that the media, if you were a Brexiteer, they were calling people far right and fascist and backward and regressive and all of those harsh words. So there we have it. The media hasn't done us any favors, and they're not going to do us any favors any day soon. So firstly, John, I would like to ask you a question. John, would you have any thoughts or any remedy for the mainstream media? What's your thoughts on that? And the same again to you, Ian, just straight after.
I think the media has one job, and that's to report the news, report the facts, and report the story. The media needs to get back to that very basic fact that they are there not to express an opinion, not to call people extreme right or far left, not to lobby for one side or the other, or to give one side. It needs to just get back to the fact that their job is to report what is happening and when it's happening. At the minute, there's too much opinions from news reporters or pushing one side or the other. Media is supposed to be, unless you go into a media channel to get your news that is openly left of centre or far left or far right. But the BBC the BBC would be, the mainstream broadcaster for the news here. It needs to get back to the basics of just reporting the news, the facts as it happens. And I think if they got back to them basics and just told people the news without expressing an opinion, we might actually be a lot happier and a lot better off as a society within the United Kingdom, as opposed to hating everybody or people with a different opinion. You just think, John, enough of them big comments. Boy, I'm getting cut off here. I can see you. No, but I think that's the job of the role. They need to just step back, get back to that basics, and report the facts as it happens, and not their own agenda or their own whoever's given them the money to promote a political side or a left or a right side.
Absolutely agree with you, John. The thing is, we need to get back. Everybody in the media right now, they call themselves journalists. They're really commentators. There are no reporters left. And we need to get back to that. When you pick up a newspaper, what's on the front page needs to just be factual news. And then when you go inside, you look at a commentator's column and you see what their take is on this. And then maybe you have another one that opposes it. And we need to get back to that. Because right now people don't trust anybody, and I remember it being more that way when we were youngsters. You got this boring guy came on, sat there, and read from basically a piece of paper what the news was for 5 minutes, and then he was gone. That was the evening news. So but what can we do, given that the reality of the current situation is we've got to develop our own media, but it's going to be, we need to be very careful in how we do that. It needs to, we need to define who, when somebody gets on and starts speaking, they need to say who they are, what perspective they're coming from, what their role is. And we need an alternative media. And by the way, I want the BBC sold off. I'm not even talking about just cancelling the license fee. The BBC needs to be privatized, shrunk down, monetized. I reckon we can get a good $4.5 billion out of the BBC to pay down some debt. It is so far gone from what its original mission was.
Yep.
There's no way to bring it back. It just needs to go.
The BBC could fix its problem with its license because people don't want to pay it. Now, BBC and ITV came together and made BritBox, where really they're renting us back the shite we've already watched many a times before, but you're paying for it this time. That's the blunt of it, and I'm sorry that language just came out there, but it's right. We've seen it. It's all repeats, but they'll pay us. We'll have to pay to watch it again.
Yeah.
Why can't they move the BBC services to BritBox? And then those that want to subscribe will pay the subscription fee. Those that don't will not have to, because everything's on BritBox.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll not be paying to watch repeats, and I can just turn the TV over.
Yeah, when you tell people overseas that we have to have a TV license if you own a TV. It's crazy. I mean, for one thing, it's another unnecessary governmental intervention that you have to deal with. You've got to pay your TV license, for crying out loud. That should just be gone. It's the road tax over here. I'm actually more in favor of put a penny on petrol or whatever and scrap the road tax, because it's something else that it comes up once a year, and then you've got to budget for it. You've got to remember whether you paid it on it. People don't need all this interaction with government. Full stop.
We're paying our road tax to make our vehicles serviceable for the roads. Yet the roads are in absolute diabolical state. They're not serviceable for our vehicles to drive on.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, you pay national insurance that's supposed to go towards, the NHS and your pension, but it doesn't. It just goes into a general fund. We don't even make a pretense in Britain that there's a social security fund that's actually going to pay out on those pensions when we hit whatever it's going to be now, 67, 68.
Yeah.
That's how messy everything has gotten. So, but back to the original thing. I mean, yeah, we've got to develop our own medias, and thankfully that is easier to do today, obviously, than it was 20 years ago. I'm not saying it's very easy, but it's simpler than it was back then.
Yeah, well, I mean, it remains simple, provided that the platforms that we're on, I mean, they don't seek to remove our voices. And we see that happening so many times with people that subscribe to nationality. I mean, I've looked at this over the years, and we've even proposed to our own politicians here that what we do need is that we need a mainstream media capability, for Britishness, for the United Kingdom, for to promote the good stories within the United Kingdom, for to promote the bad stories, for to go toe-to-toe with the mainstream media. And seemingly that it's a good idea that they think, but the politicians, they don't want to help us achieve that, and we've already tried it with them, and they seem to have stepped aside and not really went for trying to help us to help them, because that's what it would do. It would help us help them when they're being attacked by the mainstream media, when they went rogue. I mean, people like ourselves, we could go toe-to-toe with the mainstream media and tell the stories exactly as they are. But I can tell you why that I think that the politicians won't actually help us to achieve this, is because the politicians are probably fearful, and I see you smiling there, Ian, you know what I'm going to say, that the same mainstream capability that we would have would be used against their politicians when they don't do the right thing. And that's the main reason why conservatism They won't ensure that there's a mainstream media capability that they don't control in any way, shape, and form. So that's the mainstream media for you. And unfortunately, over the years, the mainstream media have been the virus. They have been a virus that has demonized, diminished, and almost demolished conservatism, British unionism, and a person's right to be British living in the United Kingdom today in 2020. So restore the right of the mainstream media, or restore the mainstream media to a place of representing the country and the place and the nation and the United Kingdom in which they reside, in which they get their license fees from, and that's how I see that. So I'd like to just thank you. Thank you for coming on the screen. Normally it's an hour and a half, and we've went a wee bit over. But look, it was really, really interesting and good to speak to you. So in closing, I would just like to ask the two of you, given that you have your own respective political thoughts and ideas, I would like to sort of start with John. And John, would you just like to tell the people that you're involved with a political party? And this is a little slot that we'll do every single time that we do a Restore Live, that the people on the screen will get a chance to promote what it is that they believe at the end of the stream, and to try to persuade people to join them politically and on their way forward. So, John Brennan, if you just like to tell us, you're involved with a political party, and why should people vote for your political party in your area today in 2020?
Well, I got involved in politics when I moved here in 2006 after I came back from Iraq. I didn't know nothing about Northern Ireland politics. I done my own research and found the only political party I could affiliate myself with and join and vote for first was the Traditional Unionist Voice. Why? Because there's no grey area between right and wrong. You know, right is right and wrong is wrong. And if you overstep the line, you're in the wrong no matter how far along the line it is. And that to me, that's a good thing. They're also dead set against people with serious criminal terrorism convictions and murder from sitting in government legislating over the very people that made the victims, or the majority of the victims in Northern Ireland. Now, to me, Jim Allister's the party leader. He's open, he's honest, he's transparent. He goes toe-to-toe with whoever's wrong. You see, the TV doesn't mix wrong is wrong, and if you're on the wrong side of it, you know, you need held to account, and that's what the TV does. Bear in mind, we've only got one MLA, but hopefully that's about to change. The last couple of weeks has seen the increase in the TV across the whole province. From every constituency, there's people joining every week. If you want to join, get in touch with me. I believe we can have a better system of politics. The TV has been promoting a better system of politics for Northern Ireland. It's just took all the other parties 10 years. You heard Naomi Long come out this week saying that they support moving politics forward in Northern Ireland. Well, the TV's been saying that for years, but they were bastardized by every single media commentator and politician going. But now Naomi Long and the Lions Party is on it. It'll all be, oh, this is a great thing. Well, news for you, we've been saying that for years. The TV is that far ahead. It's just taking the rest of the people so long to catch up. And I believe with the people backing Jim Allister and the TUV, and if people want to show support for the TUV, just consider joining. It's £25 a year if you're on benefits or an OP or a student. It's £10 a year. And it just shows Jim Allister and the TUV where the support is within Northern Ireland at the moment and on the run up the election. If you think 10,000 people join a party between now and elections, that's 10,000 votes in different areas. He knows then, bang, 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 that's 10,000 votes. Hardly likely we're going to get 10,000 people joining, but you know, consider it, people. The future is bright. The future is orange.
The future's TUV. John, thank you very much for coming on. And you know, just like to ask you, don't jump off. And we'll be finishing very, very shortly. Whenever we give Ian a go at closing. And closing, Ian, I mean, I've done a lot of looking into direct democracy systems, and I really like the concept of direct democracy. And the party that you belong to, would you just like to, and if you keep it short, if you tell us all about the party that you're involved in and what it is that you aim to do, and one question, I mean, do you hope to field candidates in elections right around the United Kingdom, whether that be in Scotland, whether that be in Wales, whether that be in England, and whether that be in Northern Ireland? So over to you, Ian. Tell us all about your party.
Yeah, I mean, we're nationwide, okay? Basically, if you want to find out more about Five Star Direct Democracy Party, go to 5dd.uk. Nice and simple, 5dd.uk. Check us out. Have a look at our internal constitution that we have on there. It is rather conservative in the, fundamental beliefs in the union and how people are supposed to be, respected in life. Get on there. What we're really about, though, is beyond sort of those fundamental points that I'm sure everybody listening agrees to, is the actual direct democracy process itself and how that can be implemented. Obviously, small scale at first, show the benefit of it, and then grow organically from there. It's not the doctrinaire type party. We don't have, we've got people from all sorts of backgrounds that have all sorts of priorities of their own. But what we have in common is the realization that the current system just doesn't work. Right? It doesn't work for most people who are not politicians and part of the system.
Yeah.
So have a look. Look us up on Facebook, Twitter. Go to my own, my own Facebook page, Ian Gorman, anti-politician, and just start talking to us. Tell us what you think, and we're just going to keep going from there. We will be announcing some candidates for May next year, assuming that May happens next year, that we're not still locked down and delayed yet again. There's a lot of work going on in the background to prepare for those campaigns, one of which is quite a complicated campaign to run, but we're going to apply the same principles that we used when we got the council seats up in Yorkshire, for the by-elections that we contested in North Wales and Northern Ireland. We know the fundamentals of what works, and we will just be applying it again. And the more people we can bring in, more people we can train, and we've got to concentrate efforts. It's a long haul game for us. But come on board and get involved.
Yeah. Ian, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on. And I mean, this is a platform that this will always be open to yourself and members of your party to come on and to expand on what it is that you're doing, to tell us of the good things that you're doing, to tell us of your successes and your campaigns and everything that goes with promoting and pushing forward with a new political venture, just like you are doing. So I take my hat off to you for putting this together and for moving forward in the way that you're doing. John Brennan, as usual, thank you very much. And no doubt, John, you'll be a regular on here. And I mean, I see the potential for two correspondents. There's a Welsh correspondent and there's a man from Newcastle upon Tyne who can do both. You can do both. You can do that and you can do Northern Ireland. So listen, thank you very much. And I'd like to thank everyone on the screen for staying with us. And I have to say the numbers across the different platforms were pretty good this evening. And I'd really like to thank people for coming and for supporting us and for staying with us, because together we are strong. I mean, Restore is not just about the people on the screen. Restore is about you people, because without you people, we go nowhere. And if we stick together, if we stand together, if we invite as many people as humanly possible under our screens for interactions to tell us what your problems are, and we can discuss the problems. We can discuss the problems that you're having. We can discuss the contentions that you have in your areas, also the problems that you're having with your politicians, and together that we can do this. If we bring enough people together, what we can do is we can form a powerful lobby. And powerful lobbies in the past have been literally, they've been capable of moving governments into positions that governments probably didn't want to go. They've been capable of changing the course of history. So let's make this a lobby of the people, for the people, and a lobby that would also get behind political parties with real British unionism on their thought processes, and literally what it is that them people like John Brennan here and like Ian Gorman, what they stand for. They stand for British unionism excelling, and that's in all parts of the United Kingdom. And in my book, that's a very good thing. So thank you very much. So I'd like, this is for everyone. This is for John, this is for Ian, and this is for the people on the screen.
Yeah,
I'd like
John.
to play a little song. Sorry, John. Go ahead.
Just saying about earlier on, Facebook closed my last page down. So the last couple of days I've worked on a website, johnbrennan.uk. We get all my posts and stuff on that.
John, no problem. And look, again, we'll promote that through our various pages, because your party, the people in your party, people associated with your party, I mean, they help us. They send us information. They send us newsworthy stories. And I have to say that that's what it's all about. That's what I call a people-politician partnership. And that's what we need to form with the willing, parties of the willing, parties that are willing to work with people and platforms like this. So thank you very much for coming on. So back to this song, and then we'll close. But look, everybody, don't go anywhere, because this is a powerful song, and it's a very, very short song that I want to play, and it has a message. And look, I'll not spoil it for you, but please listen and just leave a comment whenever you hear this song, because every time I hear this song, I get two things. I get goose pimples, and I get choked up. So it's better that I'm going off the screen now before this plays. So bear with me, and without any further ado, I'd like to play this song and say bye-bye to everybody. Cheerio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, now bear with me. This is me trying to, I'd have to get this right at some time. So I know, but here we go.
Just across the Irish Sea stirs a heart of loyalty, raising honor and indignity, drives the will to keep us British free. Not alone are we on this journey, for in a land just across the sea, it's a hand that reaches out in friendship, and a bond that's lasted centuries. Let the cry be no surrender, let no one doubt our loyalty. Reaching out to the brave red hand of Ulster is the hand across the sea. Not alone are we on this journey, or in a land just across the sea. It's a hand that reaches out in friendship, is the hand across the sea. Is the hand across the sea. Is the hand across the sea.